to the flag now? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A roll call?
Mr. Henry,
Here.
Mr. Seville,
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Here.
Mr. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Emma.
Here.
Okay, Carl, do you have the open public meetings notice?
Sure. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, otherwise known as the Sunshine Act. The yearly notice of all the board meetings, the regular board meetings, of which this is one, was noticed in the beginning of the year in the official newspapers, posted on the bulletin board and on the website. Notice has also been provided as we're having this meeting by electronic means, including the Zoom dial-in information and telephone numbers if people are participating by telephone. If you are participating by telephone, use *6 to raise your hand and *9 to mute and unmute. I don't know if that's my end calling. I'll see if I can fix that.
Okay, Carl.
Yes.
Okay, Anthony Esposito was just,
Okay, we have 7 members at this time.
let me get him in here.
I think the feedback is Tom being on 2 devices at the same place. Tom, can you mute yourself? Thank you, sir.
Oh, good call, John. Thank you.
Hi, Anthony.
Oh, so we have 7 board members now. Okay, that resolves that issue.
Okay, old business, is there any old business? I don't believe so.
No,
Anybody have
Chairman.
anything? Okay.
We have 6.
We have
6
6
members? Um,
6 voting members we have.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Well, hopefully we have another member join on before we get to Mr. Himmelman's application. If not, we'll address that with him at the outset.
All right. Let's go with the first application of, was it Maureen Downey?
That's correct, Chairman.
Maureen, can you unmute your phone?
So this is application 21-14.
Hello.
Maureen Downey of 17 Grover Avenue. Good evening, Ms. Downey. How are you this evening?
Very good, thank you.
I'm Carl.
How are
Kelly.
you?
I'm good. I'm Carl Kelly, the board attorney. So I need to swear you in.
Okay,
Would you raise your right hand? You
Sure.
swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
And give us your name, spell your last name,
Maureen Downey, Downie,
and your street address.
17 Grover Avenue, South Amboy, New Jersey, 08879.
Okay, so Ms. Downey, I'll put up a copy of your plan that you submitted on the screen in a second, so everyone can see it. So basically, just explain to the board what you're doing at your house, the improvements that you're making, the addition, and the other features.
Okay, so what I would like to do is extend the kitchen out across, make an extension from the whole back side of the house, which would extend my kitchen out 12 feet across the back, make the bathroom a little bit bigger, and the back bedroom 10 feet out, to make that a little bit bigger. And also add a small 1-car garage in the back. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And so if everyone can see, I have the plans up there. So this area behind the house, this shaded area, is the new addition you're talking about. That
Correct.
one area is 20 feet, one's 10 feet for the kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. And then in the back corner, there is the garage here. And my understanding too, this area here, which is kind of dotted, that's a driveway extension?
Yeah, that would be a driveway extension. I have
Okay.
actually a small little patio there, but they would hopefully put a driveway there eventually.
Okay, and that would be, I guess, asphalt to match the rest of the driveway?
My driveway is part concrete.
part, and would you be doing this driveway extension concrete as well?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that, Mr. Chairman, I think it's the basis of the details of the application on the record.
Hey, John, could you go over the variances that we have here?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, Carl, feel free if you got them.
I do. If you don't have them handy, I'll run them off.
No, I got them too, but either way.
Go ahead. I'll let you have some fun tonight.
Thanks. Okay, so we have a building coverage variance in the R10 zone. 20% is permitted, with the rear addition and the detached garage would be at 29%. The rear addition is continuing an existing side yard setback variance. Essentially, if we're looking at the plan here, the right side of the house is already, it's about 5 feet, 4.9 feet off the side yard where 10 feet is required. So the extension to the back is really, it's continuing that variance condition, not encroaching any further, but extending the same line. The rear setback also encroaches within the required rear yard. I'm sorry, that's the combined side yard setback. So it's the same situation, just the combined side yard setbacks at 19.7 right now, where 25 is required. Same as the single side yard setback variance issue. The impervious coverage, like I said, we have a building coverage variance. There's also an impervious coverage variance, also 9% over, 49% proposed, where 40% is permitted. The proposed driveway is extending and non-conforming condition on the left side of the property here, where the driveway is 2.5 feet off the side yard, where 5 feet is required. And so that extension to the back is continuing that line and extending that nonconformity. And then finally, the garage is a 12 by 20 garage, so 240 square feet. And that exceeds the maximum size for an accessory structure, which is limited to 150 square feet. So a 90 square foot overage on the garage. That's it. We have six variances.
Thank you. Board members, is there any questions? No questions at all? I'd open it up to the public at this time. Is there anybody in the public that would wish to speak about this application?
As I mentioned before, members of the public, if you're using Zoom, next to your name, there's a way you can raise your hand so the board secretary can recognize you. If you're on your telephone, you hit *9.
Carl, can you take this down off the screen
Oh, sure.
so I
There
can
you-
see if
there you go,
anyone's
Joe.
raising their hand? I don't see any hands being raised.
Can I ask a question or mention something?
Yes, who's talking?
Maureen, the homeowner.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I had forgotten that on the plans, my architect neglected to put a tiny overhang in the back of the house where I'm going to have 2 sliding glass doors, one for the kitchen and one for the bedroom to go into the backyard. And he had neglected to put the little tiny overhang over those 2 doors and over the side door on the driveway side. So he didn't add that. Would that be an issue?
So can you see, I put the plans back on this screen, Ms. Downey. Is it in these 2 areas here? These 2
Yes. So those
Okay.
those two shaded areas would be where the what is that? Sliding glass doors would be. And I needed him to put a little tiny like overhang, like a tiny little roof kind of, I don't know what it would be called. It would be very small.
Sure.
To overhang both of them. And then on the driveway side, if you see where the steps are, if you go
Yes,
up a little
over
bit,
in this area here.
yes, right there. There's a door on the side door, and the same type of little overhang to protect the door. Something little. He was moving to New Hampshire, so I guess it fell out of his mind.
You mean like an awning, right?
Yeah, kind of like an awning. Yeah, like a little,
Would
like
it
a little
would be
overhang thing.
a small roof that was attached to the house, like made with wood and shingles, kind of like the roof on
Yeah.
your house, but a miniature version?
Yeah, but a miniature version, exactly.
Okay, any questions from the board members?
The only question I have on that, John, I know we don't have everything in front of us to handle that. I think there might be a de minimis increase in the side yard, the combined side yard for that, or is that not considered part of the structure because it's stoop?
So
to
it's,
speak?
I was just looking at that. I believe, I don't have the citation in front of me, but I do believe that it's permitted to have a little covering over steps and entryways within a setback. So I don't think that would be, I mean, we can make a note of it, I suppose, in the resolution just to cover the bases, but I don't
Okay.
think it's an additional variance, and those areas are already proposed to be impervious coverage, so I don't think it affects any of our coverage calculations.
Issues. Okay. So, Mr. Chairman and board members, thank you, John. Appreciate your input. If the board is in favor of the application, we should also grant any de minimis waiver that may be needed for those stoops, the three, the one by the driveway and the two on the back porch. And if it turns out they're not needed, then that's fine. But if they are, it's really not adding much to this application. I don't think it is a big issue. And I'll include that in the resolution if the board approves the application.
Thank you. Mr. Downey, one question. Is there going to be a second floor to your extension at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, any board members have any questions at this time?
And Mr. Chairman, since we talked about additional issues, just on the matter of precaution, and open it up to the public again.
Again, it's open up to the public. Any questions? Joan, anybody there?
Carl, can you take
Yep. I just realized I forgot to do that. There you go, Joan. Sorry about that.
I do not see any.
Okay, make a motion, close it to the public. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, board members, do you have any further questions, or what's your desire on this application?
Make a motion, we approve the application as read.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
Joan, roll call?
Mr. Henry,
Yes?
Mr. Savilli,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mr. Emma,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Did he respond, Joan?
No.
He may have muted himself.
Tony, can you hear us?
So he's listed as an attendee rather than a panelist. Is he able
Yeah.
to speak?
I'm trying, Anthony?
He shows that he's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're on the phone, will you *9, is it?
Yeah, it should be, I think it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 toggles mute on and off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was on in that, attendee only. Yes, I vote yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Downey, your application is approved, and you'll be able to go for permits after it's been memorialized at our next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited.
All right, good luck to you.
Okay, does that mean I get to leave the meeting?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too.
Okay. Next application is EMC Trailer Repair Inc., Partners LLC. Application number 2110.
correct, Mr. Chairman, and represented by counsel, Mr. Himmelman.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Mr. Kemp. Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. As you are aware, I'm David Himmelman, and I am the attorney representing the applicant this evening, EMC Trailer Repair. And my client is the current contract purchaser for the property located at 444 Bartle Street, obviously here in Saraville. I am aware that the board received all of the application materials and use variance plan, but I wanted to highlight a few items and just indicate that we do have 2 witnesses this evening, and I will go over that briefly. Just by way of background, as you are aware, the current property owner, Liberty Repair, did receive prior use variance approval and site plan, and that was granted by the Board of Adjustment back in 2003 to permit the construction of a warehouse facility for truck, trailer, automobile, boat, and marine equipment repair and maintenance. The resolution granted the relief back in 2003 to Liberty Repair, granting a use variance for the applicant to use the property in question for the uses I just specifically described. And it's very interesting, Mr. Chairman, because when the applicant first approached me about this property acquisition and their potential use, I think one of the reasons that the applicant was drawn to this particular property was because of the very similar use what Liberty Repair currently does on the site. From what
You're breaking up.
board favorably review the application. So it's pretty you find a situation that position that's industrial use where the uses are so similar. I think the fact that the property is located in an industrial area.
David, you're breaking up. You're on mute now.
Now you're on mute.
Still on mute.
Oh,
There you go.
Okay.
we're good?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Sorry. Anyway, as you will hear from the applicant, essentially EMC, and I'll use that for the abbreviation for the applicant, they essentially refurbish and rehabilitate trailers only, and the applicant will describe in detail exactly what that entails. The applicant, as you know, seeks a use variance approval and minor site plan as the refurbishing of trailers are not specifically permitted under your ordinance. And in discussions with Mr. Mashansky from the very beginning of this application, he and I looked at the prior resolution of approval. And while the resolution did refer to truck and trailer repair, he felt there was a little bit of ambiguity. So he suggested that we pursue this particular application, Mr. Chairman. So I wanted you to be aware of that. In any event, the applicant, as you know, in order to prevail on a use variance, must show that the site, can accommodate the particular use, and that there are special reasons which would require any departure from the appropriate zoning criteria. And so we will have our engineer and planner briefly go over the proposal this evening, and we'll outline the positive and negative criteria in support of the use variance. With that said, Mr. Chairman, We have two witnesses this evening. I have a representative of the applicant, who I believe is on, Elizabeth Zadawaski, and we have Mark Lieber, who's our civil engineer and planner, who will testify on the site plan and planning aspects of the application. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further introductions, and if there's no questions, we could, Mr. Kemp, I guess, could swear in the applicant's first witness, which would be Elizabeth.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Elizabeth. Please raise your right hand.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you give us your name and spell your last name? You can put your hand down.
Elizabeth Zawistowski, Zawistowski.
And your business address,
uh,
not your home address.
oh, okay. It's 1540 Lower Road in Linden.
Okay,
New Jersey.
thank you. Thank you. Mr. Himmelman, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Elizabeth, good evening. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Just so the board's clear on your background information, can you briefly describe your position with the company and how long has ECM been in business, if you would, please? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Zawistowski, and I am the president of this company. It's a family-owned business, and we had this business for 27 years, since 1994. It's a small company, family-owned business. And what ECM basically does, we repair the exterior units of the trailer. We do not repair engines, and we do not repair trucks. Only the exterior units of the trailer. We basically rehabilitate and refurbish the units.
And right now you're operating out of your Linden location, is that
Linden,
correct?
yes, 1540 Linden, Lower Road in Linden.
Very good. And why do you believe that the Hartle Street property, which is the subject of this application, is most suitable for ECM's operations? You could
We
explain.
looked at all different properties, and this particular property is it's suitable for us because it's very similar to what we do, to our business operation. It's very similar, and because it's similar, we don't have to change anything inside. We do not have to change anything outside. It's gated. It has good lighting. It's super well kept. Everything is really well kept. So there's no changes that we need to do. That's why I feel it's similar to our business.
Very good. And if you could describe, I mean, you did describe ECM's operations and its business. Does it differ in any way with what Liberty Repair currently does, to your knowledge?
It does not differ that much. They repair different things, and we repair different things. We repair it only the units. So we don't even do engines. We don't deal with oils. We change oils, but it's synthetic. Not a regular oil.
Okay. And generally, what will be, should the board act favorably upon this application, what will be the anticipated hours and the number of employees?
Okay, we have 15 employees, and hours from Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But a lot of our employees, at least 5 of our employees, they come in the morning, but they don't work from the facility. They will send them for road services. So they are on the road the whole 8 hours, and they come back and just leave the service truck and they go home. The rest of the employees will be working at the facility. So not all our employees will be working from facility. We have a lot of work service that every day, road services that we send people on.
So generally in the morning, you would send people on the road.
Road services. Yeah, they come pick up the service truck and they leave.
Okay, very good.
And then office hours starts at 10 o'clock. Then some people start at 7 and some people start at 8.
Very good. And if you could just describe, although the plan does provide that, but just for the record, if you could provide your understanding of the number of maximum number of trailers that you are going to have on the site, should the board act favorably upon the application.
Yes, it's 24. 24. And
So that would be the total.
That will be the total number. And we do not need more space because we have another location in Edison, which is a parking yard for that reason. We keep trailers there, the units there. And when we need the unit, we bring it to the site when it's ready for repair. Then we bring it. But we don't need the space. We have separate space designated for that reason in Edison.
Now, to your knowledge, is the current site layout, is the parking delineated in a way that is similar to what you're proposing, or how does that work?
It's
To your knowledge.
similar to
Okay.
what we're proposing. Yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of the actual work on the trailer box, will that work be located inside the building?
Inside the building. Inside the building.
So no repair.
No work outside. No.
Okay. Are the vehicles or equipment used in the operation, will they be forklift, tractors, et cetera, will they be stored on site? And if so, where will they be parked or stored?
We have 2 forklifts only, and we will be storing it inside.
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 So there'll be no need to have a particular parking space on the property for any of the forklifts that you just referenced, correct?
Yeah, we only have 2.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else, Elizabeth, you'd like to add or say that you feel would be important for the board to be aware of about your company or any of the issues we discussed, or anything else you'd like to add? Or have you covered everything?
I think I covered everything, basically. It's very similar business, and we are not a big company. We are a family company.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further direct questions for Elizabeth, but the board and your professionals might, so I defer to you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions for Elizabeth.
Sure.
How many trailers a day do you think will be coming and going?
3 or 4, up to 5.
Okay, thank you. And do you paint there at all?
We do not.
No painting is involved. Okay. And is this going to be a second location besides your Linden, or you're moving down?
We're going to
here?
have 2 locations.
You have Linden and
And
here.
we have the parking yard. That's
Okay.
another location.
And you only work on trailers, no trucks?
Only,
or-
no. Only the boxes, exterior boxes of the trailer. We do not do any engine work and no trucks at all.
Could you give me an example of what your normal repair would be on a trailer?
Lights, brake jobs.
Well, yeah, I mean, for example, would you do like the roof?
Roof, brake job, lights, panels,
Okay, thank you.
doors, like the back rolling doors from the trailer. They break a lot with the rolling back doors that open
Right.
up and down. That's like the most. And sometimes people go under the roof and there's no roof because the bridge, there's no roof completely. A lot, actually.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Elizabeth from the board?
Yes, Elizabeth, these are the 40-foot trailers, right, that connect to a tractor?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple questions to clarify. You mentioned you have forklifts. Do you have a mule tractor to move the trailers around the site? And
That I do not do it. These are no mule tractors.
No, we have a switcher.
Oh, we have a switcher, he said, a switcher.
okay.
A switcher that will bring back and forth.
And when the trailers come in for service, I guess there's a tractor trailer that brings them in. They leave the
Yes.
trailer, and then the
A
tractor
switcher,
leaves.
yeah.
Okay. And as to the work you do you do any welding?
We do.
Okay. And you have a provisions on site for storage of the acetylene tanks and things of that nature?
Yes. Do we?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, cage. Okay. The fire department may need some review of that if the application's approved. That's why I asked.
Sure.
Um,
Thank you.
so
Absolutely.
just wanted to, yeah, that's post approval. Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate that.
Thank you. David, you move on.
Okay, thank you very much. Elizabeth, just sit there. The board may have some other questions, but Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mark Lieber now and have him sworn in and qualified as our engineer and planner, please.
Yes.
Certainly. Good evening, Mr. Lieber. How are you, sir?
Hi, good evening.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And please give us your name, spell your last name for the record.
It's Mark with a C. My last name is Lieber, L-E-B like Brian, E-R.
And your business address, sir.
Is East Point Engineering, and the office is 11 South Main Street in Marlboro.
And you'll be testifying tonight as both a professional engineer and professional planner?
Yes.
Okay, and just very briefly, give us your qualifications and licensure.
Yes, good evening. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Drexel University in Civil Engineering. Following graduation, I continued on to Rutgers Graduate School where I completed the MBA program. I was licensed in 2004 as a professional engineer, 2005 as a professional planner, and in 2006, I completed the Certified Municipal Engineering Program. Testified before both planning, zoning boards, and county boards throughout most of the counties in New Jersey, but primarily in Middlesex and Monmouth County.
Accept his qualifications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please continue, Mr. Hill and Mr. Lieber.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Kemp. Mr. Lieber, good evening. It's my understanding that under your direction that you prepared the use variance plan in furtherance of this application. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. Do you want to put that up on the screen, or do you think we can just, you can refer to it because obviously the board members have it?
I can put up the plan. This is sheet 2 of the recent plan set that was submitted.
Yes, and Mr. Lieber, just sorry to interrupt you. So the plans that this plan and the next plan that you're going to put up is what was submitted, hasn't been colorized, changed in any fashion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't need to mark that as Exhibit A1, Exhibit A2, just indicate that it's the sheet that was submitted. Please continue, Mr. Lieber.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Mr. Lieber, if you could just describe in detail the nature of the application and what the relief being sought. And obviously we can go through the professionals memorandum as well. Thank you.
Sure. So once again, this is 444 Hartle Street, and Hartle Street's a local road which is situated off of Journey Mill Road. The block is block 59.02. It's lot 1.07, and that appears on the borough's tax map sheet 25. If you look at this plan on the left side, you notice the property has 264 feet of frontage on Hartle Street, but the depth varies. On the, I guess that would be the northerly side, it's about 377 feet. The southerly side is 458 feet. So it's not a rectangle, but the overall lot area is 2.6 acres. You'll notice on the left side of the drawing, there's a building here that's an 8,000 square foot industrial building. Inside that building, there's 1,700 square feet of office, and the remainder of the building is open. There are 14 parking stalls on the property. There are a bank of 2 at the northerly side, and at the, I guess, northeast is a bank of 4, and there's 1 ADA stall against the building. And then the property is more or less a mirror image. You'll see that same pattern on the southerly side of the property, 1 ADA stall, a bank of 2, and a bank of 4 spots. Access to this property is from 2 different paved driveways from Hartle Street. There's one at the northerly side and one at the southerly side. Like I said, the property's a mirror image. You'll have on both sides these concrete pad areas. And on the side walls, there are 2 overhead drive-in doors on each wall, plus 1 regular man door on each wall. And the main entrance to the building is facing Hartle Street. The property is surrounded with industrial and commercial uses, and all of them are located on Hartle Street. Right now, there's a business operating here, which is Liberty Repair, And the site is situated in the SED, Special Economic Development District zone, and it meets all the bulk requirements for the zone. We originally submitted initial plans that were dated February 18th of this year. And following our meeting with the board's professionals, we had made some revisions to those plans and submitted a revised set dated June 4th, which is the one on the screen right now. Now, the proposed use, as you heard it described, is for trailer repair. Other than a change in the tenant and the use on the property, we are not proposing any site changes. We are going to restripe the parking stalls that were previously approved. And we're also going to stripe an additional 2 parking stalls located adjacent to the trash enclosure. So that would bring the total parking stalls on the property to 16. Now, with regard to the planning aspects of the application, again, they want to occupy this building for their business, which is ECM trailer repair. And this proposed use is not specifically allowed in the SED zone, so a use variance is required. Prior to me looking back at the planning aspects, I went and reviewed the resolution of approval that the board had adopted in 2002. And in that resolution, just to summarize, Liberty Repair had made an application to the board and they were seeking approval. And the words are in the resolution for the repair of trucks, trailers, automobiles, boats, and construction equipment. And they were also seeking approval to sell trucks. Now, that was their initial request, but ultimately the board granted an approval for the repair of trucks, automobiles, boats, and construction equipment. And they also approved truck sales and accessory use. But the resolution didn't have the word trailers in the approval language. So, to be conservative and after speaking with the zoning officer, we felt the best approach would be to come back to the board for this change. Now, the board's findings in 2002, which are included in the resolution, were that the original application furthered 2 goals of planning, which were, and I'm just reading out of the resolution. One, which was denoted by letter A, was to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use of development of all lands in the state in a manner that would promote the public health, safety, morals, and welfare. So this current application does not pose any change to this finding, and it does not conflict with that finding either. This is an industrial area. The use is industrial in character, and it's well situated as this entire street is commercial industrial. The other goal that was mentioned, which was denoted with the letter B, was to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses, and open space, both public and private, according to the respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey residents. So what that really means is that in 2002, the board found that the use was appropriately situated at this property, which they did not feel that it was out of place. In other words, from a compatibility standpoint, they felt that Liberty Repair's application was compatible with this street and this neighborhood. Again, the current applicant is not proposing any remarkable difference to what was already occurring at the property. I'm sure if you look at old aerial photographs or take a ride by the property, you'll see a very similar repair business out there with tractor trailers and equipment parked on the property. Now, as far as the positive and negatives of the application, I really couldn't find any remarkable changes because this use is extremely similar to the existing use. Again, there's no site improvements. We're not expanding the building. I don't believe this is an intensification of the use at all. So there's really not much changing out there. I don't think someone driving by the property would be able to discern that anything has changed other than, the sign identifying the business might be different. So I'm not clear about how the board can assert that we're introducing new detriments and perhaps conflicting with the prior approval, because what you heard earlier from the owner about the use, it's very much the same as what was previously approved. For the positives, we're going to restripe the parking lot. We're going to add some off-street parking, and we're going to provide, should the board need it, a limitation to the number of trailers that could be on the property at any given time. And that's really all I have.
Mr. Lieber, if I could just ask a couple follow-up questions. So, in terms of the landscaping that's currently on the site, is the applicant looking to provide any additional landscaping or the existing trees in any need of replacement, or how are we handling that?
The prior site plan approval, they had required to plant trees around the perimeter of the parking area, which on this exhibit are in green. Those trees would remain. We're not removing any trees. There's also a line of trees behind the building which would remain. The property is very, very well maintained and very neat. So we're not proposing any changes to any of the landscaping at this time.
Okay, now in terms of the delineation of the parking spaces, I believe one of the sheets to your use variance plan has that parking.
Correct. That's sheet 3, which I just put on the screen.
Okay, and we're proposing 24 spaces as you've delineated on sheet 3, correct?
Right. Trailers come in different lengths. So I put a mixture of sizes and lengths here. Some are 53 feet, some are 48 feet, some are 28 feet. And this isn't meant to be an exact representation that there'll be exactly 5 53-foot trailers parked next to, you know, a line of 48-foot trailers. We were just showing more or less, given the total width of the lot in the rear of the building, what the practical amount of trailers that could fit while maintaining a 2-foot separation between each trailer's, you know, functional, so to say. I also showed 2 shorter trailers on the left of the building and 2 shorter trailers on the right of the building, you know, as additional storage space. If there was something that was smaller that needed to be placed on the concrete pad, those could fit. So in the back, we have 20 of these rectangles, and then we have 4 adjacent to the building, which is a total of 24.
Okay, with regard to the 20 spaces that are located, those are located in what is now the stone gravel portion of the site, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how will they be delineated on the site and identified?
Right now, we're not proposing any specific delineation. Unfortunately, gravel is difficult to stripe because it lasts a couple of days at most, you know, if you drive over it. So again, knowing that the width of a trailer is about 8 to 8.5 feet, we had plotted this, leaving 2 feet between them to show the most that could possibly fit here.
So you're comfortable based on your survey and review of the plan that those 20 spaces that you've just referred to in the gravel portion of the parking field will be more than adequate, assuming there's about 2 feet in between each trailer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Lieber, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or have you covered all your engineering and planning testimony?
I covered everything. However, there are 2 reports to the board.
Yes, that's what I was going to get to. Yes. There, I guess there is Mr. Cornell's, Jay Cornell's memorandum of June 23rd, and then John Barry's email, but I'm sorry, memorandum. I think that it had the original date of May 20th, but I think that should have been June 20th, but I could be wrong. But
You are correct. That was an error on my part.
no worries.
Yes, I guess for record purposes, it is May 20th on here, but it was written after receipt of the revised plans.
Right. Yeah, I think, John, I think your original memo was dated May 20th. Yes.
So I wanted to start with Mr. Cornell's report. The first page has 5 comments. And comment 1 is a statement regarding the, you know, conformance of a lot to the zoning, I guess from a bulk requirements perspective. And I'd indicated earlier that appears to conform with those regards. Number 2 is a statement of really what the application is about. And number 3 is a reference to the prior approval from 2002. And they had actually attached a copy of that resolution to their report. Number 4 is a statement, you know, that we had met with the board's professionals to go over the project. Following that meeting, we did in fact submit the revised plans. And item 5 was a reference to an attachment noted as a technical engineering review, which was page 2 of that report. And I'll go into that right now. Item 1A, we did make an application to the Middlesex County Planning Board. I'm assuming it's going to be a letter of no interest. I don't have it at this time, but we did make that application. Items 2, 3, 4, 5 were related to design standards that are more or less related to existing conditions, and that we were asking for a waiver from those requirements due to the fact that we're not modifying anything on the property. And if the board was so inclined, we would humbly request a waiver from those requirements, namely a setback to a parking area, a requirement for sidewalk, curbing in the rear of the property, and the need for a designated loading zone. And the last item in the report was item 6, which was to provide testimony about the hours of operation, number of employees, and traffic patterns, deliveries, garbage pickup, etc. I know the client testified to most of that. I'll fill in the blanks. They do generate refuse, which would be stored in the refuse container that's already on the site today. And the traffic patterns are extremely low. And the reason for that is because this is not a site that's open to the public, so to say. People from the general public are not going to be going to this property. It's not a type of thing that attracts drive-by traffic where people driving down the road say, oh, let me turn in here, I want to check it out. So that traffic's pretty much limited to the employees that are going to be working here and somebody who is perhaps dropping off a trailer or picking up a trailer. So that should address the traffic comments. Any questions so far?
Any questions from the board? Continue.
All right, so I wanted to go on next to Mr. Barry's memo, which I guess we could start on the bottom of page 2, which contains the SED development zone standards. If you look at the table, it indicates largely that there's no changes to any of those bulk requirements proposed. Then he goes into the requirements for the granting of a D1 use variance, which I provided the plain testimony just before about why I feel, in my opinion, that this variance can be granted without a substantial detriment to either the public good or the zone plan. Again, it's extremely similar to what's already occurring on the property. In addition to, there's no expansion to any of the buildings, so there's no intensification of the use or anything of that nature. On page 4, there was request for testimony regarding the operations of the business. And I believe all those questions were answered by the applicant themselves. Item 3 was about the size of the trailers, which I went through on this exhibit, which is sheet 3 just before. 53 feet, 48 feet, and 28 feet are the most common sizes. I mean, there could be an odd size here and there, but for the most part, 53 is the largest that'll be in for repair. The next comment for Mr. Himmelman had asked about delineation of those parking spaces on the gravel. We said, unfortunately, there's really no easy way to delineate them, but from a practicality perspective, the most we could fit back there is 20 trailers because you really can't park them butt up against each other. Item 5 is about curbing the rear of the parking lot. And Mr. Barry notes that the original approval did grant relief from that requirement. We would seek to continue that relief if the board were inclined. Getting down to the last parts, item 6 and 7, we're not proposing to remove trees and we're not proposing to add trees. There is a comment about the existing fence with the gates, and that's going to remain, and those gates would be closed at night. Getting into lighting, there is lighting on the property that was approved with the prior site plan application. They are not proposing any new lighting. But if the board were inclined to have the lighting on a timer, that would be okay to the applicant. And then last is signage. There is no freestanding sign. There is a building mounted sign. And they would change the, I guess, artwork on the sign, but they're not seeking to actually change the sign size itself. So when you look at the building from the street, it has the letters Liberty Repair. And presumably if you made a rectangle around those letters, you would get a certain square footage sign area. So the applicant's proposing to maintain that same square footage, but instead have their letters on the building, which would be probably the only noticeable change to someone driving by. And that concludes the memorandum at the bottom of page 5.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I don't have any further direct questions for Mr. Lieber. The board or your professionals may, so I defer to you, Mr. Chairman, and your professionals.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Do you know how many trailers are on the property now that they normally have?
I don't have that answer for you. Right now, there's a mix of trailers, flatbeds, cars, other vehicles. I don't know exactly how many are out there today.
Okay, thank you. And looking at the trailers, the way they're parked there, the one at the top, the 53-foot trailer, would that be interfering at all with that parking space that's in front of it?
We actually had discussed some of the maneuverability, I guess, challenges for some of those spaces on the edges. And because this is not a public site and the owner really has control over all the parking there, one is they might not need all those parking spaces, but 2, there's no reason why they can't move some vehicles to get those trailers into the spot. So it's not like a shopping center where, you can't do anything until somebody comes and moves their car. They really have full control of the property. So I don't really think that's a concern. If they have to move a car or 2 to get a trailer into the building, I think that's fine.
Okay, understood. And one last question, I guess. The only thing that you'll be doing here is trailers repair. I guess the other approval from the planning board was they could do boats and things like that. They don't plan on expanding their business down the road.
No.
Okay.
By the way, Mr. Chairman, that was the zoning board that had it.
Or the zoning board, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Any questions from the board members?
Just one, Mr. Chairman. Is there any idea that you might park these trailers in the street at any point? If you have an overflow?
No, absolutely not. The owner wants to keep all of the operations behind those fences that are on the 2 driveways.
Okay, as long as they're not in the street.
Okay.
And we also, when we met with Mr. Mashansky, he made it clear that one of the things he was directing us not to do was to park any of those trailers on the street, and he liked the fact that we were going to be able to keep the trailers contained within the property.
Very good.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Tom?
If this variance is approved as requested, does that mean that the other variance is basically null and void?
I think, Mr. Chairman, he might have 2 devices on again.
Yeah, Tom, could you mute?
Carl, you're on mute.
Yeah. Carl's on mute, and Tom, you were speaking through 2 things.
It's got 2 microphones.
Yeah.
Between us, it all evens out. Yeah, that was actually, Tom, where my question was going. Mr. Himmelman and your client, the board normally requires that the applicant withdraw their prior use variance approvals in place for the new ones, and that release would occur on the construction of the new building. So not just the granting of the variance tonight, but the construction. When the building's constructed, you would relinquish any prior approvals for the property. So that way we don't have multiple. So, okay. Right. And David, as always, if the application is approved, I will send you the resolution. We'll work the language out, because there is some relief in the prior resolution that will be continuing forward. So I want to make sure I continue that relief for you, but we kind of give up more the use issues in the old resolution, but
Yes,
conceptually we're on the same board, on the same page. Thank you for clarifying.
my pleasure. Yeah.
Any other questions? I would like to open up to the public right now. Anybody from the public, Joe?
I do not see any.
Make a motion to close it to the public?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, I always like to be extra cautious so no one can say we didn't give them a fair chance. Any members of the public want to speak? If you're on Zoom, next to your name, there's a way you can raise your hand. The icon you click on, if you're on the telephone, hit *9 and we can see your hand raised and call on you. And anybody, no one's responding to that. So, okay, just wanted to be extra careful on that. So please can
Thank you.
proceed, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to close it to the public? Bob? You're on mute.
You're on.
So moved. Okay. Okay, Dave, would you like to sum up at all, or?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this application. I think the applicant has addressed all of the questions by your professionals with regard to the nature of the operation and the similarity certainly to Liberty Repair. I think Mr. Lieber did an excellent job going through the site plan and addressing the technical review memos by your professionals from CME, Jay Cornell from CME, and of course, John Barry. The one thing I would like to add, Mr. Chairman, is I think the applicant is very excited for the opportunity to, if the board would act favorably upon this application, to relocate to Sayreville and move its operations here. This site is so well suited, both from a physical and technical standpoint, given the existing use. So I am humbly asking if this board would grant the relief sought, which is a use variance and minor site plan, and I would welcome that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, what's your desire on this application?
I make a motion, we approve the application.
Second? Is there a second? Joan, roll call, please.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Savili,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mr. Emma,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
You might be muted.
Where do you go?
Tony? Tony?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, it's been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board, and thank your board professionals as well.
Elizabeth, welcome to Sayreville.
Would like to thank everybody, members of the board, and I hope I'm gonna love it there. Thank you.
See you around.
Good night. Thank you.
This is
All
the-
right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All righty, everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess, is there any comments from the board members at all?
We have resolutions to adopt, Chairman.
Okay,
Want me to go through those?
please.
So these are the applications that were heard last month. The first one was application 20-01, Dennis and Deborah Shedlock, which was for a bulk variance for an addition for a roof above an existing deck. The application was approved. Resolution has been submitted. Unless there's any changes or questions, we can make a motion to adopt.
Make a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second the motion.
Roll call, Joe?
Mr. Henry,
Yes?
Mr. Savili,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Emma,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
The next resolution we have was application 21-12, Edward Calcano, which was a bulk variance for a deck. Yeah, it was a straightforward application. The normal conditions are in there. Unless anyone has any questions or revisions, that can be adopted.
Where's it downstairs?
Make a motion?
Motion.
Second?
who made the motion?
Dave Seville?
Okay.
Second?
Second, Bob Foley.
Okay.
Roll call?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Savili,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Emma.
Yes. And the last application we heard last month was application 21-13, Javier Murillo, for a bulk variance for a fence surrounding the property, which is pretty straightforward. Application has been prepared with the normal conditions, and if there's no questions or comments, can be adopted.
Want to make a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second that.
Roll call, Joan?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Savili,
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mr. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Emma.
Yes.
Anything else, Carl, or?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Those are all the resolutions we have to adopt.
I'd just like to discuss a little bit here too. Joan informed me that we'd be able to go back to the chambers for our next council meeting, our next zoning board meetings. What's your desires? I guess we could keep it this way, or we can go back to chambers. Anybody have any preference at all?
As long as we're sure that the town's okay with that, because originally they were a lot more conservative on the Zoom meetings.
Joan, what's the what's their regulations we have to follow?
If we go back to Borough Hall, masks have to be worn the entire meeting.
Not doing that.
I say keep it on virtual.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking, maybe
That's not
September
right about
timeframe.
the mask.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe the September timeframe. In the summertime, we could keep it on Zoom. I guess at this point, let's do it this way now, and we'll look at it again in August. See if we want to go back to chambers on that.
Yeah. Well, hey, Bill, maybe maybe you put a bug in somebody's ear that, well, I don't want to have to go into a meeting wear a mask where everywhere else we're not wearing masks.
Right.
I think it's kind of silly.
Yeah, I think municipalities are very